Okay, welcome everyone to the EdTech SIG Symposium for 2025. It's nice to see you all here. So whether you're joining us from your campus, your living room, or somewhere in between, which I usually am, thank you for making the time to connect with us. My name's Casey Parks. I'm the convener of the EdTech SIG for English Australia. In my day job, I'm the Director Academic Strategy and Quality at Kaplan International Pathways. And I'm really passionate about how we can use technology to support meaningful human-centered learning, which is what this community is all about. So I'm going to introduce the deputy conveners for the network. So Christy Anderson, she's the AI product manager for learning innovation at Pearson. And Gabrielle Alspulketa is an English teacher at the University of Adelaide English Language Centre. And I'd also just like to quickly acknowledge the behind the scenes work that Sophie O'Keefe and Rachel Winton have put in to supporting us to get this event off the ground. Before we get started today, I'd like to take a moment for an acknowledgement of country. So I'm joining you today from Awabakal country in Newcastle, in New South Wales. And please feel free to share the country that you're joining or the land that you're joining from today in the chat box. I acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today and pay my respects to elders past and present. And I'd also like to extend that respect to any First Nations colleagues joining us today. And as we gather to talk about innovation and learning, I just want us to remember that Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples have been innovating, teaching and sharing knowledge on this land for tens of thousands of years. For anyone who's new to the EdTech SIG, we're a professional community within English Australia for people who are curious about how educational technology can enhance teaching and learning. Our aim is to create a space where teachers, innovators, managers can share ideas, test new approaches, and learn from one another. The EdTech Symposium actually began back in 2020 when we were in COVID times and we had to rush to online learnings. I'm sure you all remember. And since then, it's become an annual tradition to showcase innovation and collaboration. And it's great to see it grow every year. And it's always one of my favorite PD sessions of the year. We've got some fantastic sessions ahead today, some great speakers, and tomorrow as well. But I just wanted to say thank you for being part of this community and really sharing your ideas and energy. It's just great to see. So I hope you feel inspired today and I hope you enjoy the symposium. I'll hand it over to Christy now, who's going to introduce our first speaker.
Thank you, Casey. Hi, everybody. Good to see so many of you in the chat. So I'm really excited to pass you over to Chris Bush, who is going to kick us off today as our plenary speaker. So I'll just give a quick intro to Chris and then I'll let him kick off. So Chris Bush is a Churchill Fellow 2024. I'm sure he'll tell us more about that in a second. And an educator with over a decade of experience in Australian schools, including teaching EAL at RMIT. His Churchill Fellowship took him across 5 countries, investigating how education systems are responding to AI. Chris now works with educators internationally to build AI literacy and practical integration capabilities, focusing on tools that save time and enhance, not replace, teacher expertise. And he's going to be telling us more about that in his session today, Teaching Smarter, Not Harder, Essential AI Tools for English Language Educators. So Chris, over to you. And yeah, really excited to see your presentation. Thank you.
Thanks, Christy. Thanks, everyone, for being here. I thought I'd just start off by asking a question in the chat about how much experience you all have with using AI. So 1, you're just getting started on your AI journey. You're not very confident. Up to 5, you use it all the time. You're pretty confident. If you can just put in the chat where you rate yourself between 1 and 5, that'll give me a really good help to see how to pitch things. Fantastic. As you're responding, I'm just going to get my presentation up on the screen, and it's always a bit like a bit of an octopus on Zoom. You're sort of doing a lot of things. So as I share my screen, forgive me if you see something that you don't want to see. Here we go. I'm hoping that this is showing, yeah, my presentation here.
It is. You're perfect, Chris. All
Thanks, Christy.
good.
A great range of people in the chat there with their levels. At the end of this presentation, I'll share a resource with you. So don't feel as though you have to take notes. 25 minutes, pretty quick. So I'm going to show you quite a few tools that are really helpful for your English teaching. You might be able to see me amongst my two Year 12 economics classes. I've worked for 10 years in Victorian secondary schools, and before then I was teaching English at RMIT, English Worldwide. So today I'll try and pitch things perhaps towards that English language experience that I have. But you remain the absolute expert in your craft. And what I'm hoping to show you today are some AI tools that free you up to do more meaningful work with the young people that you teach or the learners that you teach. If you are interested in a really good book or just following someone on LinkedIn, this guy, Ethan Mollick, is a professor of entrepreneurship at the Wharton School in the USA. And this book's a wonderfully accessible read about the world that we find ourselves in, with humans having invented this tool that when we use it and we really start to harness its potential, starts to feel like a co-intelligent manifestation that we are interacting with and augmenting our skills with. But nothing will ever replace the work of a teacher in terms of the empathy, the care, the connection. Today is all about tools to help you with your job to make teaching easier and more effective for you. This was the question that I traveled around the world to discover, to see what other countries were doing with artificial intelligence and how, in particular, that could close equity gaps, which we see developing and continuing to widen in Australia. I won't bore you with my entire travel story, but just so you have a sense of where I went, I got to hop over lots of the sort of established Western world and into the US, Canada, England, and Finland, looking at Estonia as well. One story that I'd like to share with you is this principal, Marianne here. She's principal of a school in Turku, and she's pointing to the list of previous principals that have been principal of her school. And she speaks about she's the steward of her era, and she's pointing back to the year 1276 when this school was founded. So she's the head of a school that's about 750 years old. And Marianne really spoke about being the steward for this age of AI and that she needs to prepare her teachers and her students for this new reality that we find ourselves in. Just like we prepared our students and teachers for the internet, this similar leap requires significant investment, personal development, professional development to harness these new tools. So why AI? AI is everywhere all at once, and I'm sure as teachers we're experiencing students perhaps offloading their thinking to AI. There are incredible abilities with AI that can make our life as a teacher far more effective and easier around differentiation, around personalization, gamification, making learning more relevant to student hobbies and interests. And so today I want to show you how you can harness this new technology to improve the effectiveness of your teaching. Feel free to ask questions in the chat as we go. But I really want you to have this image in your mind today. You are the human head chef, and the AI is your little assistant. The assistant that you can give jobs to do, like chop carrots or shell peas, jobs that perhaps need to be done, but maybe don't require your absolute attention. And then the little tiny chef will hand you their work and you will review their work. You might ask the carrots to be diced more finely. You might ask them to be done completely all over again. It might not be what you were looking for. You decide what the output is ultimately, and you work in back and forth with this AI assistant. So have that image with you as we go forward. Is from OpenAI, so maybe look, it's a bit of a heavy one to start on, but there is an enormous ability in this technology to do things that most people aren't grappling with, and Australia in particular is perhaps not having as much of a national conversation around the potential for AI to change teaching and learning. For example, every student in China is getting 8 hours of AI instruction this year alone. That's 260 million students. And so we really need to learn how to harness these tools so that we can see how they can help us in teaching and learning. And so for the next 20 minutes or 15 minutes, and then we'll have some Q&A as well, I want to show you some AI tools that you can use. So I'm hoping, is that still sharing my desktop? And now hopefully that's sharing my browser.
Yep, that's
Amazing.
it. Perfect.
So thanks, Christy. As I said, there's going to be, I'm going to show you a few things, but at the end, I'll share a set of notes with you so that you don't have to worry about capturing everything. I'm going to show you some of my favorite AI tools for the classroom. And the first one here is called Brisk Teaching. Um, Obviously, in the privacy of your own homes, you'll be able to install this and play around with it, watch any videos you need to. But Brisk installs on your browser. It's like a plugin. And then what happens is when you're on a news website, such as the ABC, although I live in Brunswick and it's sort of legally mandated that we read The Guardian here, but if I click into this article about the Liberals and their net zero policy, actually I want an article that has a bit more text earlier this morning. So let's click on this explainer here about climate change, net zero. What Brisk does is it's this little bee that pops up, and I can click on that little bee, and it can help me differentiate the reading. So I can change the reading level of an article to suit my learners. What Brisk will do is it'll assess I'm just going to move this little Zoom thing away. It'll assess the reading level, and it's saying this article is a 10th grade reading level. I know that my learners, and this is American grades, so you sort of pick and choose based on the age, and again, trial and error. You're the head chef, you know what you're looking for. But we can click change reading level. And what Brisk will do is it will open up that article, but it will translate it now into a 6th grade reading level. And it'll take a little bit of time in the oven as it chops away. So let's come back to that original article. What did the text say? Net zero is all over the news. They fight over whether to keep it. Political debate confuses what it really means. Quite advanced English. What it's done here, and it's going to keep cooking and whizzing away with the mandolin. And I'll zoom in a little bit. It says, you can see that it's changed the English to be far more accessible for learners whose English isn't quite at the level of that article. The article's still a great one, but you want to differentiate it really quickly for class. You can do that as many times as you like if you have different reading levels. And something that didn't pop up is that once it whizzes through, it then says, and I must have clicked past it, it says, would you like to create a quiz or would you like to create some questions based on that article? So it's like lesson planning that's really quick and really timely and hopefully can save you lots of effort. Yeah, thanks. So Brisk is the first sort of one for teaching and learning. I'm going to keep whipping through so there's time for questions. Teaching often involves PowerPoints, and PowerPoints are maybe a necessary evil that sometimes we have to teach students with large amounts of content, and PowerPoints are an effective way to get it across. Gamma is an AI-powered PowerPoint creator. And so if I clicked on there, it would take me through to this Gamma homepage. And basically, we can make a PowerPoint based on just a prompt. Would someone mind putting in the chat what's a topic that they're teaching maybe tomorrow or today, a topic that I could get AI to demonstrate with? And as someone's putting in that topic for me to play with, thanks, this is good. Sharon, Brisk, how does Brisk compare to ChatGPT? Brisk will do exactly what ChatGPT will do. Like he could say to ChatGPT, hey, can you make this article at a 6th grade level? But what I really love about it is just that speed at which it whips it into a Google Doc for me, or it can whip it into a Word doc. You can make that quiz and then I can just quickly like download that or print that or share that. The engine behind Brisk and behind all these AIs is probably ChatGPT because it's one of the cheapest to runs. So ChatGPT will do the same, but you'll just have to do a bit more effort in terms of copy pasting back and forth with it. Excellent. So, Danny, thanks so much. We're saying that food insecurity is what our prompt is. So I can say to Gamma, make me a presentation for, Danny, I'm just gonna guess that you're teaching, what age are you teaching, Danny? And this is a bit of back and forth on live morning television. Adults for EAL learners, learners who are adults. What Brisk can do? Well, yeah, great, uni students who are uni students. What Brisk will do then is just from that little prompt. Now remember, come back to that head chef image. If you give it a better recipe, it will follow a better recipe. But just because I'm doing this on the fly, I want to show you some what this tech can do. But just with that prompt, the AI will work out what are some potential PowerPoint slides for you, and you can go through and then edit these, and obviously take your time to check that this is in line with what you wanted the content to cover. But the effort of making a PowerPoint is like chopping onions for me. I'm happy to decide which parts of the PowerPoint are really strong, but I don't want to make it from scratch. And so what I love about Gamma is that, as you'll see, in a moment, it will start whipping through and making quite a beautiful presentation for me on food security or insecurity that I can then edit and adjust as I see fit. And so then you're the expert chef who comes in and does that adjustments on top. It's focused on the US. So again, if my recipe was better, could have got it to focus on Australia. It's focusing on food insecurity for uni students. So again, that's my recipe that it's running with. Dan, Gamma is actually free. And what I would say, and this is going to make a presentation for me, when you sign up with your Gmail account, you get 500 credits, and I think one presentation is like 10 credits or 20. And when you run out of credits, I just sign up with a different account, and you get some free credits again. The only annoying thing there is on the free version, you're limited to 10 slides, but maybe PowerPoint shouldn't be more than 10 slides. You can go in and then edit this and adjust as you need to. And Raylene, yeah, Brisk is free as well. So all the tools I'll show you today are free. Sometimes if you want to use it more times per day, you'll have to pay. But Gamma has done a beautiful job with that little presentation. And you can also create one based on a slab of text or some notes. So you could throw in some notes that you have. Or you might have been given a PowerPoint from someone that was good in the 1990s, but needs a bit of a zhuzh up for this year. So you can upload an older PowerPoint or an older document, and it will zhuzh that up and freshen it up. So it's ready for the 21st century. So that's Gamma and Brisk, two of my favorites. Cool. We're doing well for time. So my next one is Perplexity. Perplexity is like Google on steroids. Tell me about food. Actually, no, I had an English example. Explain passive and active voice to me. I'm learning EAL. Make the examples about basketball so it's easy to understand. I found teaching passive and active voice really hard, but what Perplexity will do is it will go in, and it was very quick there. You might not even have seen it. I didn't. It's gone in that time of 1 second and looked at 19 different websites to find out about the passive voice and active voice. And we can see sort of some of the places it's gone to and assess the veracity of these sources. Again, this looks pretty good. British Council, ABC. You're the head chef. You decide if it's been to the right places. And it's produced me this really nice summary about the passive and active voice, and it's using LeBron. So it's picked up a basketball example, which is great. You could have said make it about horses or dancing or whatever, or eating fur. You decide. But what a lovely way to immediately differentiate some summary notes for students could be. So that's a really lovely tool. You can then ask some further questions with it. And again, this is free for a certain number of requests per day. Great to see some people in the chat do use that. Okay, I'm conscious of having 5 minutes left, so I'm just going to. There's a few different large language models out there. ChatGPT, a lot of people have heard about. Google Gemini is another one that people may or may not have heard about. I pay for far too many AI tools. They're tax deductible as educators, which is great. So Gemini is like ChatGPT, but it's got the best image generator in the world at the moment, and all the AI companies are kind of racing each other to have the best AI. And for whatever reason, Google is really good at making images. So it's having a bit of a think about this for me, and as it does that, I'll see how it's going to go. Yeah, cool. So it's using basketball. Again, what I love and what I had it do before, yeah, is so it's nice. I said, make me a picture, and an image to understand. Now, sometimes every time you talk to an AI, even if you ask it the same question, it might give you a different answer. So I'm going to see what sort of image it creates for me now. And if it's not a good one, I'll show you the one it made for me this morning when I was testing this out. And maybe I will do that just because I'm seeing if there's questions in the chat too, so feel free to ask them. Here we go. Awesome. What I love about this image, now AI often misspells things, but it's done a really good job here. I love that we can see the difference between the passive and the active, and how that it's changing focus between those options. If the AI Gemini will misspell less than say ChatGPT. If it misspells, you can ask it to correct its spelling. It sometimes might not be able to. It can really struggle with spelling. But for me, this, even if it had a few spelling errors, would be a really helpful resource to bring into an EAL classroom, maybe to when a student just really doesn't get it, and you're able to sort of have this great image to help. Awesome. So that's Google's Gemini. Many of you will be using ChatGPT, and so I want to show you how you can personalize ChatGPT a little bit to make it more suitable for you each and every time, so you have to tell it less. And this is being recorded, so if I go too quickly, feel free to, what's that? I'm not sure what that annotate button is from, but I want it to go away. Awesome. Down on the bottom left corner, you can click on your, like the initials of your name, and you can click on personalization. And in personalization, you can tell the AI how you want it to write. So you could say like always use like English for academic purposes or something like that. Again, I'm under the clock here, like a basketball player. So take your time, tell it how you want it to behave, tell it what you do, and tell it how you like to use AI or what you want it to do. Like always have checks for understanding, always design lessons with games, always make it appropriate for like EAL learners across a differentiated range. The more you can tell it about you, the better it will produce a response each and every time. Sophia, you're asking about Brisk working as a plugin. Yeah, you can switch it on and off. It just lives up in the top of your browser there. I'm on Google Chrome, so I can turn it off if I want to. I don't really mind that little bee popping up. It's a little bit annoying, but not the end of the world for me. The other thing that you should do, because AI companies are harvesting up our data, under data controls, it says improve the model for everyone. Now, it's a bit cheeky they put that on. I'd recommend turning that off. And for whatever reason, ChatGPT is not letting me do that today. It's being a little bit stubborn, but yeah, usually that's a toggleable option that means that your data isn't being used to improve the model for others. Okay, I'm talking at a mile a minute, and I want to show you one more tool that will sort of round it out. There's this tool called Notebook LM by Google. And if you have logged into this, as you take your time to explore it, you can create a new notebook, which is like a little custom version of AI. And what I'm going to just throw into this notebook is this stuff about the passive and active voice. And Dan, is it toggle for only paid accounts? No, I'm not paying for it. So I think with the free version, it should be, well, yeah, mine's on the free and seems to be toggleable. And what I'm going to throw into Notebook LM is just some copy text. Now you could put in some documents that you have, like maybe some of your like explainers or things like this. You can feed in whatever you want into Notebook LM. But what I love about it is it then creates a really neat summary that explores the documents that you pasted in. I don't have time today to put in better ones, but when you play around with this, just choose a topic, put in some of your best documents. But what it will do is it can create a podcast for students to listen to. You can create a video that explains what's happening. It'll make mind maps that are to do, and I'm not sure how good a mind map's going to be on passive and active voice, and it'll make flashcards. And then you can give your students just access to this notebook. And when they're using it, it'll only be drawing on the data that you've uploaded. So it's a bit like a bit of a closed ecosystem for maybe an area of study or a topic. And so my year 12 students, we had one of these for each area of study, and they would listen to a podcast maybe as they were walking home or cooking dinner. It's just another way to help them learn the content. They take a few minutes to cook in the oven. It's a pretty intense thing to make a podcast and a video. So you'll have to experience this for yourselves at home. Amazing. Okay. So we have about 5 minutes for Q&A. And so yeah, feel free to unmute yourself if you've got those permissions, or I guess there's the chat as well.
Thank you, Chris. I'm going to kick off with a question whilst people are thinking and getting them in the chat. Chris, you mentioned, thank you for the amazing whistle stop tour. That was so helpful, and I'm sure it looks like everybody's found it really useful. I had a question about, you mentioned countries like China, where students are getting really hands-on with AI in the classroom. I wondered whether there were any countries or schools, particular institutions, where you saw teachers being really involved with AI, and any sort of tips that you might have seen along your travels, along your journey, with what was working well for institutions in terms of teachers using AI.
Yeah, I think the best example I can think about is Chicago's public school system. It's one of the largest school systems in America, and therefore it's one of the largest school systems in the world. They've had a really expansive professional development program where teachers are given protected time to learn about AI and how to use AI. They're given micro credentials and badges on achievement of sort of AI literacy. And that's recognizing that teachers have are professionals, but we need to give them the time and the energy and the protected time to learn about these new tools and then decide what works for their context. Sometimes, like for example, on this call, some of the tools I might have showed will resonate for some teachers, and for others, it just simply won't be appropriate for their context. So it's the Chicago public school teachers, a system of absolute economic disparity that are really deciding which tools are appropriate for their classrooms, and they've been given the time to learn about them. Hey, NASA's asking about free AI tools for accurate transcriptions of large audio files. Now, what I might do is model how I would find this out using AI. So Perplexity, it's like Google on steroids, and I would just ask. I'm just going to copy in your question to AI, and it's going to then. Did I copy that in? No. AI tools for accurate transcription of large audio files. What Perplexity will do, you don't have to spell it correctly, but it's just scoured the internet. It's gone and looked at 18 places for that. Reddit, great. Blah blah blah. Yeah, New York Times, excellent. And it's given me some options here. So check those out, see how they go for you. Ask a bit of back and forth. Perhaps NASA, there'd be something there. But if ever I don't know anything about AI, excuse me, I just tend to ask AI the answer. Yeah. I did promise you all the the playbook for how you can use AI, and so that you've got access to that. Is that sharing my screen? If you head to, I'll just put it in the chat. If you head to my website, it'll have a little pop-up for you, and that will help you to sign up and then to access my playbook for educators. What that playbook has in it, and I'll quickly share my screen as there are questions coming through. What we've got in that playbook for you is how to write effective prompts to AI so that it cooks you the meal you're looking for each and every time. It's got a list of all those AI tools that I talked about. But then it's got this series of prompts for educators. And what I've tried to create for EAL and language teaching prompts, there's some recipes that you can copy in depending on what you're trying to do. Say you're trying to scaffold a piece of text, and you just copy in the recipe into your favorite AI, upload it, attach some documents as it says, and then these little recipes will really help you to harness AI in a super powerful way, following a prompting methodology that I didn't have time to go over with you today, but is explained really sequentially in this guidebook for you. There's a question about AI detectors. AI detectors don't tend to work. In fact, they tend to penalize EAL learners or students of a less articulate use of English. I actually saw Turnitin present at a conference in San Diego, an AI conference, and they're shifting their platform from one of AI detection to one of co-writing with AI. So they're actually even recognizing that it's impossible to detect whether or not writing has been written with AI. What we do need to do as teachers is to think about how could we set assignments differently that makes them more resistant to AI completion? What components could we add in, such as like an in-class assessment, some sort of localized connection? And I've even got a prompt in that guidebook for you to take your existing assessment tasks and to have AI help you imagine them into ones that are more AI resistant. But I think we need to move away from being detectors or police people of sort of academic misconduct, and rather have conversations with our students about the perils of using AI for 12 years of their education or more, and also adjusting the assessment so that it's harder to do. Yeah. Sophie, I do work in high schools. What are my students using at home a lot? Chatbots. So I actually cloned myself with AI, and Christy, tell me if I'm going over time. I cloned myself
You're
with
good.
AI so my students could talk to a version of me at any time of the day or night. It was trained on the curriculum, trained to respond in very certain ways, trained not to talk about things that were inappropriate. And so I think creating a digital twin that your students can talk to at midnight when they're revising for a test, that's the one thing that my students were using a lot. They asked 1,500 questions the night before the exam, and their study scores lifted enormously, and their feedback's really positive, especially for students that can't afford private tutoring. And so if I use PlayLab, and that's also listed in my guidebook for you too, with a list of instructions about how to make your own.
Was it a video clone, Chris? Like a avatar?
No, just a text,
Oh,
just a
like a
text.
chat. Okay,
I would like. I think
cool.
in a few years it might be a little hologram like something like
Yeah.
Star Wars, but for the moment, it's just
I
like
was going to ask, I wonder if your students would prefer interacting with something that, like, you know,
yeah,
looked and sounded like you. They probably would.
yeah, yeah. Just a chatbot like MSN or something to
Yeah,
those of us
yeah,
who are old
nice.
enough to know what that
Oh
was.
yeah, I remember.
Okay, that's me. Happy to take more questions. Have I missed any in the chat? I don't think so.
I don't
I
think so.
think
Did
that there
you
was one
let
about
Hillary
checking
know?
the
Yeah.
content in the podcasts, how carefully you need to check it
Uh,
from. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's an
Hillary.
interesting one.
Great question. Again, as the head chef, you should definitely listen to the podcast and eat the meal before you give it to your students to eat. Uh, as time goes on, you might become to trust the AI to a level that you don't have to check it so much. In my experience, it's never gone completely off-piste where I've asked it to create a podcast on macroeconomics and it's created a podcast on the Kama Sutra. AI doesn't tend to do that. It tends to stick really tightly to what you've told it. Each podcast is about 10 minutes or so. I've tended to listen to it myself or get some of the students that I sort of trust and can rely on to test it for me. Yeah. Okay.
Nice one. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah.
I think that looks like it's all the questions in the chat. I'm just doing a little scroll, but I can't see anything else. Oh, a few more are coming in. Maybe last couple of questions,
Hi,
Chris, and then
Raylene.
we'll
Nice.
wrap
Thanks for
up.
your question. Raylene, I used a platform called PlayLab, and that's a not-for-profit based in the States that's been built by educators for educators. It's really easy to build your own chatbots and to customize them, either as a teaching assistant or for one that's student-facing. Again, I've got details for that in my guidebook or my playbook. And reach out if you're having any dramas. But it's a very cost-effective platform too, because lots of the ones that are out there are quite commercial and quite expensive. And as teachers or schools, we don't have large amounts of money to be throwing at these things, especially if we're quite new to them. There's a bit of work to do about introducing your students to chatbots, and getting your school on board or your system on board. And so I've got some resources in my playbook as well about how to safely introduce chatbots to your students and to your families and communities. Yeah.
Perfect. Right, I'm going to do my teacher 7-second wait, but I think we're wrapping up. So thank you so much, Chris, for such a brilliant session. That was so helpful. Chris, maybe any last words? Where can we find you? Where should we be following you? Tell us the last thing, and then I'll pass over to Gabrielle to introduce.
Yeah. It's all if you like to follow me, I'm on LinkedIn and you can sort of find that via my website. I do workshops with schools and I work with lots of different sorts of communities. Using AI is hard, it takes time and practice, and I'm here to support you on the journey if you'd like that. But it's a pleasure today. Sorry to talk so much, but I wanted to squeeze in as much goodness as I could. Yeah.
You squeezed loads in. Thank you, Chris. That was so accessible and wonderful presentation. So thank you so much. If there's any other questions, we'll get them over to you in some shape or form. But I'll pass over to Gabrielle next to introduce the next speaker. So thank you so much, Chris.